I'm still not seeing it on the YouTube channel, but I will refresh. Okay, Rivers just texted said we're live. Okay, good. Woo. Hey everybody, welcome to a special episode of Industry Relations, the live edition. Sorry about it taking some time. We just needed to figure out we haven't really done this before. So welcome. As always, I am your co-host, Rob Hahn, Notorious Rob, and always the fabulous Greg Robertson, everybody. And maybe you could do the thing the correct way this time. There you go.
Okay, I got it, didn't I?
Oh man, we tried to record like 5 times to go live, but we finally succeeded.
Okay.
So obviously, since we don't actually know what we're doing on YouTube, whatever, I think there should be like a live chat function. If you comment or questions there, that we might be able to see it and react to it. But yeah, so we'll have to redo the intro because we went for like 10 minutes without realizing we weren't actually live that you can see. So obviously we're live because there's some big news that that dropped this morning. And I thought the way to do this would be, again, because we just wasted like 18 minutes. I think the way to do this would be maybe, Greg, you could just give us the high-level overview. And then I actually have the agreement and was looking through it. So I thought we might look at it together and react together, the two of us, and then the community as well. So high level. Sir, from the NAR FAQ.
Yeah, so the New York Times this morning published an article. I'm not sure whether the details of some of this was leaked to them or it was provided to them ahead of time. It doesn't seem to me like NAR would want to work with those guys, but they did have an article. Deborah Kamen wrote that NAR had settled these commission lawsuits for a reported $14.8 million, along with some concessions that they were making. And those policies, and NAR kind of quickly after that, or about the same time, posted something on their realtor site. I think facts.realtor.com or something, and has an FAQ and another kind of thing that outlines the settlement, and also has a video from Kevin Sears and Katie Johnson, right? Yeah. So, and it went over some of those things. And we've been all of us on Twitter have been going back and forth trying to read these things out and flesh some things out about what this means for everything. I've got my own set of questions going through that. I've been tweeting a little bit of that too, but I know, Rob, you probably wanted to bring it up, and like we just can kind of go line by line on the time we have here.
I think so. And I think maybe we should just start with the fact sheet. Again, everyone can find this on, hold on, not screen. I want to do window. I want to do settlement FAQ. Where's the FAQ?
Because, this thing includes, I think, ramifications for referral networks, for portals, for MLSs. For I guess it doesn't cover home services, which was still in some of these things.
Yep.
Yeah, and it doesn't include the other plaintiff defendants that were already entered into settlements, like I think KW and Anywhere and the others and Remax that were in there. So
let's start here. I mean, again, it's implication from members, 1 million NAR members released from liability nationwide. So this is like the Anywhere and Remax settlement. There's a settlement class. So if this gets approved, this will be the end of it all, except for whoever plaintiffs decide to opt out, right? And they can probably do.
Okay, Rob, can I just interrupt this 1 second? Let me just ask you really quickly. $418 million.
Correct.
I mean, relatively cheap, right?
Super cheap. I mean, this is a big win for NAR. I mean, there's, like God knows, you and I have had, at least like a year's worth of content, and me especially, like, when we were trying to go live, I was looking at the live stream. I have a video. It's like small MLS and associates settled. Now it's like, well, I guess they shouldn't have, because now they're part of this nationwide settlement for NAR. Every entity appears to be covered, other than like home service that was left out. I don't know why. And I guess anywhere in Remax, they already have their own settlement. So, I don't think that matters.
Williams, yeah.
Okay. So just real quick, I mean, if you go through it, some of the more interesting things like stuff like this. Anybody under 2 billion, release from liability. The thing is, like reading through the agreement, we'll go through it. Even if you have over 2 billion, like it feels like you could be released from it as well, right? So it feels like every realtor brokerage is going to be covered under this. Certainly, every local
but
MLS, every realtor association is covered under this, right?
Well, no, not. I mean, there's a little bit of difference here where there's a means to. They've also, I guess, pre-negotiated something, so it almost has like a civics feel where there's another amount or another thing that they can join if they want to, but it's not.
And we'll go through that. I think
opt into those.
We'll go through that. I think in the agreement, again, the high level, the big important stuff is this, right? That is the biggest thing, right? Which is that compensation survives. It just can't be on the MLS, right? Which we'll talk about. All right, and then there's all these.
Well, you got to believe though. You got to believe that they didn't do this without going through DOJ. So
you would think
the DOJ this had to pass their smell test, right? It had to. Why would they do this without doing that?
That's a great question. Obviously, we don't know until somebody, maybe Ketchmark, will be on CNBC later today, talking about this settlement, right? But it's like you would think that the Department of Justice has signed off on this because otherwise, we're just getting another statement of interest.
Why go through
right,
this?
Why go through all this? And Ketchmark has said he's constantly in conversation with them. So it's almost like the compensation piece survives. It just can't be on the MLS, which raises all sorts of like unintended consequences questions, it's out there. But again, at a high level, this is what we're talking about. Strong grounds court. I mean, it's probably is going to do, appealing Chapter 11 reorganization. They didn't go down that road, but they got the settlement. So this is pretty awesome, right? For NAR, for every MLS, every broker, so that's just that, right? So let me stop sharing on this one. All right. So what I was doing, in the 30 minutes or so, whatever it was, I actually found a copy of the actual agreement, right? And I thought, that's really what we need to do here. So hold on, let me see if I can pull up that window. All right.
Now there's still lots of questions here. Maybe we'll go over this, but I mean,
I think so.
I don't know if I think association-owned MLSs are included, but there doesn't seem to cover non-association-owned MLSs.
There is.
What is the? Okay.
All right. So here's settlement agreement, and I just highlight a couple things like realtor MLSs. Sorry, the highlighting release claims. It's everything, And here's the sort of the important things: release parties, any realtor, right? All of it. So that's covered. Any realtor MLS, right? Etc. So here's the realtor part. Any realtor MLS.
Realtor MLS, right. Yeah.
Any realtor MLS is covered. All their officers, directors, managers, blah, 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 blah. But only if that realtor MLS complies with paragraph 66, which is the rule changes. I will get to that.
Yeah. Right.
Complies, etc. Now, here's the thing. Any non-realtor MLS, right, including subsidiaries, blah, 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 they're covered only if that non-realtor MLS complies with paragraph 67. So we'll look at 66 and 67, right? But when I read it like this, I'm like, so it doesn't. If you're MLS PIN, if you're FMLS, if you're not a non-realtor, if you're a non-realtor MLS, you're still covered under this if you agree to comply with some of these rules changes, right? So same thing. Any real estate brokerage under 2 billion, you're covered. But here's the thing. But only if, right, that broker has a realtor as a principal with membership in NAR, right? So if you're below 2 billion,
well, I guess they can't make. We'll just go back to the MLS part. they can't make a settlement for non-MLS real.
That's right.
Because they're
That's
not
right.
part of it, right?
That's
So, but they put in some sort of provision
That's right.
that they could if they
If
wouldn't
they
follow
comply,
this, right?
right?
Okay,
So
now
to
I get it.
me, it's the
Right.
same. Like,
But is there any
it's actually the same.
financial thing in the? Is there any financial thing within the Section 2067 that says you're all good, but you have to pay a little bit extra?
Dude, I didn't have time to look through the entire agreement to find that.
Okay,
I didn't
all right.
see it at first glance. Okay.
Okay.
And hey, keep writing. By the way, if you're watching, keep writing questions. Like, we will get to you, but I want to go. Like, let us go through, sort of at this high level, and then we'll address some of your questions in the chat. All right. So that's anyone under 2 billion, right? So I said, okay, so everyone over
Right.
2 billion is on the hook. Not really, because okay, let's say you're over 2 billion, right? You're covered, right? But only if you have a realtor as a principal with membership. Okay, well, that's everybody, right? Like, that's every broker I can think of the over 2 billion. Like, who doesn't have a realtor principal, right? Or
well, I mean, let's think about something like,
you know what I mean?
What about like franchisors or kind of the hybrid ones like Coldwell Banker, right, from anywhere? Now that's a brokerage within the
that's a
franchisor
franchise
organization,
but
right?
still, the broker would have a principal broker, like the whoever license, right? Every broker has like the managing broker who's like the principal broker. If they're a realtor, you're covered. So I feel like over 2 billion, it doesn't matter, right? So take, like, say Compass.
Okay.
Right. If whoever the Compass principal broker is, that's not the same thing as the CEO, right? That's like the guy whose license is whatever, and it's part of the. As long as that guy is a realtor, Compass is covered under this. Unless I'm completely missing something, I think they're covered.
Or
right?
It's interesting because it's almost a counter of like, this forces that you don't want to be, that brokers will want to get away from NAR. In this case, it's like it's reinforcing membership.
Right.
Because, as the old American Express thing used to say, their membership has its privileges.
Membership has its privileges.
And this would be one of it. Yeah.
Okay. So, and then they left out home services and BHHS for some reason. I'm like, okay, maybe they have a separate.
Well, they're
settlement.
still kind of arguing back and they're still arguing back and forth with them. They never, yeah.
And then we have this like thing: no defendant in the action shall be released party, other than NAR. And then home service, which was already addressed. So I'm like, what other defendants are there? Like, I was actually, I haven't had time to really think through it, but you think through any of the lawsuits that's out there, right? Who else is out there, right? Who else is out there? I think this ends up covering every potential defendant. Off the top of my head, it's like,
I mean, but is a limitation on the 2 billion, like if your principal is a realtor member, that excludes you. But does it only? But is there a caveat? It only excludes you if the brokerage did less than 2 billion.
No, that's what I'm saying. If you read through this, it feels like as long as you're a realtor broker, it doesn't matter the sales volume, right? Right, like,
well, why put it in there then? There's got to be a reason why they have that.
Okay, total transaction value in excess of 2 billion, right, including blah blah blah, but only if that brokerage has a realtor as a principal member, has a principal who is a participant in any MLS, does not assert any claims, which is the same language, with everything else, complies with practice changes, agrees to be bound. So I'm like, do you know what I mean? 2 billion, not over 2 billion. It feels like every brokerage is covered, as long as you're a realtor, principal, whatever brokerage, it's covered. Okay. And then it says no other defendant, but I'm like, there is no other defendant that I could think of, right? Like, so the Texas case that sued HAR and Sabor and whatever, like, they're all realtor associations, realtor MLSs. They're covered. A number of the brokers that were sued, they're all realtor principal, so they're covered. So this feels like a universal settlement for the entire industry, right? Releasing parties, right, settlement class. And here's the key thing, right? It talks about like Merle, Burnett, MLS Penn, like, Alabama, Georgia, this and that. For all other homes, October 31, 2019, right, to the date of class notice. So every seller who's ever sold a home through an MLS, which would be just about all of them, right?
Right.
Like under this,
maybe some pocket listings might not get
possibly, but I can't even imagine
Right.
if you do that. Like, is there some sort of a claim about a conspiracy around commission rates? No, you have no such claim, right? So I feel like this covers everybody nationwide. So let's move to
now.
then.
If I look at the total, if I'm looking at the total amount of damages here, I have 418, I have 55, I have 70, and I have 84 million. Right, so that adds up to me to be 627 million. If you add all the settlements up,
maybe but this part, I'm reading this like, okay, all of my criticism of Katie Johnson to some extent has to go out the window, because this is an unbelievable win. Like I can't even believe, like, really? Wow, that's super cheap. I mean, we're talking like even beyond pennies. So here's what it says. All right.
Agreed.
418 million. No. It's 5 million. Like, it's chump change. It's 5 million, like within 30 days. And then within 90 days, you have to deposit an additional 197 million, right? NAR has that in cash right now in the bank. Okay. And then 1 year after that 197, they have to do another 72. Well, we know
they have 4 years, right?
They essentially, and then 2 years, it might be 3, 4 years. Dude, this is like an unbelievable win. Like, this is
I think the same thing, and
no cost change, like nothing changes. Like, wow, no impact.
Yeah,
basically.
I mean, even if they did some sort of like assessment, it would be like 200 $225 per realtor total.
I don't
right?
need.
I mean, it's nothing,
dude. Under this type of payment arrangement,
they probably don't even. They probably know. They don't even need to do it. Probably,
nothing.
Well, this goes back to what we thought. I mean, is that this is all about the attorneys getting money.
Yeah,
they're just like they're smart. Okay, what's your half your balance sheet? Okay, we'll take that. I mean, they're not going to get $5 billion. There's nothing ever was going to get them the treble damages on any of this stuff. I mean, they were trying to juice this berry that didn't have any juice left. So
hey, at this point, it looks like you're right. All I can say is I think the plaintiff's attorney, they left a lot of money on the table. Let's just put it that way, right? But it's their right to do that, It's their right to do that. And Ed Zorn had come on. Remember, Ed was talking about a $2 billion settlement. This is a quarter of even
this
what
is unbelievable,
right? It's a big hey. Okay.
No, it's like I think that's why Katie Johnson was in that video, because she wants her flowers and she wants them now, baby.
And honestly, she deserves them, right? So this is a humongous win now. So let's move down to practice changes, because this is what everyone's going to be interested in.
Okay.
So
yeah.
I mean, I guess we'll just react to it, right? Okay. Eliminate, prohibit any requirement that listing brokers or sellers must make offers of compensations, buyer brokers or other buyer representatives, either directly or through buyers. Eliminate, prohibit any requirement such offers, if made, must be blanket, unconditional, and unilateral, right? Okay, so that's going to be gone. Prohibit MLS participants, subscribers, brokers from making offers of compensation on the MLS to buyer brokers, other buyer representatives, yada, yada, yada. Okay. Eliminate broker compensation field. Okay. And prohibit the sharing of offer compensation, yada, 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 via any other real-time MLS.
Okay, hold on. So pause right there.
Yeah, let's pause right there.
Because you've been saying, in whatever, you've been talking about this forever. This kind of stuff here, and some more going here, but just initial reaction. What do you think about how does this affect steering? I mean, if there's nothing on the MLS that even...
I mean, in theory, it eliminates it, but hold on to that, right? Because we're going to go through some other provisions that makes me go, really? So hold on to it. So the one interesting thing here is any other realtor MLS field, right? So why? Because they're going to allow concessions field, I think. Let me see.
It's kind of what
4 is kind of important.
Ed's been talking about.
Because you cannot condition participation or membership in MLS based on offering compensation. Now, this has been one of these little weird sub industry, like within the MLS space. It's been going on for 5 years now, 6 years, right? where the MLSs really wanted to go after, say, Zillow, right? Because they're like, okay, you're a brokerage for the purpose of getting IDX, but you're not really a brokerage because you don't accept or offer compensation. Under this settlement, that clause is just out. Now you just, if you want to join the MLS, whether you offer compensation or not, you have to be allowed in.
Yeah.
Right. Minor point, but interesting. Okay. This part's cool. Agree not to create, facilitate, or support any non-MLS mechanism, okay, for listing brokers or sellers to make offers of compensation to buyer brokers or other buyer representatives. Okay. And then it says, but this is not violated by Realtor MLS providing data or data feeds to a Realtor MLS participant, or third party, unless the Realtor MLS knows those data and data feeds are being used directly or indirectly to establish or maintain a platform for offers of compensation from multiple brokers. And then it actually literally explains that Realtor MLS cannot intentionally circumvent this requirement. Right? And then I get this. Realtor MLS participant displaying both data or data feeds to MLS and offers of compensation to buyer brokers or other buyer representatives, but only on listings from their own brokerage. What? Again, I haven't had time to really think about this. This feels like
something to do with, is it a private listing network kind of thing here?
But what it says literally is, I'm a broker. Say I'm Compass, right? I think I can put my own listings on compass.com and say, we are offering 3%. Like, you can make offers of compensation through the broker's own website. That's what it sounds like to me. Right?
Right.
So, hey, people want.
Well, like, this is going to take a little more to marinate on this.
Obviously. Sure. So let's keep going. All right. And then we get this. Now, every realtor, you must have a written buyer agency agreement before you can show a home. And that agreement
before you can tour the home. Yeah.
Correct. You must specify and conspicuously disclose the amount or rate of compensation you'll receive and how this amount will be determined. Right. So the buyer agreement that is mandatory must say the buyer, here's the amount or rate of compensation. I'm like, okay, that feels like it's preserving compensation, which it does. And then it says amount of compensation.
In a way, though, what it does do is, like, if you look at sites like Zillow and Redfin that have this kind of Uberization, right, where it's like request showing, we'll have somebody there by 11 a.m. Well, and these, because these could be unrepresented buyers. They're just surfing the internet. They want to see a home. Mm-hmm. That's going to be a weird situation. I think it blows it all up, in my opinion. Okay, so I'm an unrepresented buyer. I go to Redfin or Zillow. I click the button. I want to see this agent at by 11 a.m. It says. Yeah. I go there, and now the realtor goes in front of me and says, "Oh, before I can open this door, would you please sign this? Right. This 5-page agreement." Right. Yeah, man. And I don't think they can just put up a modal that says agree to these terms of service and then click, and now you're. I mean, I think it says there you got to be really, really. It says you have to be really detailed there. So
that's a great point.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Redfin and Zillow got.
This is what it's saying. Okay. Must be objective, ascertainable, may not be open-ended. All right. And you can't get paid more than what's in the buyer agreement. Right. Yeah. So because one of the issues was what happens if more than, like, nope, you can't take more than that. What's left open is, okay, what happens to that money? Right. Like, I don't know.
This is gonna be interesting. It's gonna, for the forms companies out there. I'm thinking from a vendor's perspective. There's going to be a tidal wave. A tidal wave of form changes. Lots of work. Just like the COVID disclosure form back in the day.
That's right. Lots of
Everybody's going to be flooded by this by July. Yeah.
Lots of work. And then you get this. Realtor MLS participants acting for sellers, so the listing agent, conspicuously disclose to sellers and obtain seller approval for any payment or offer of payment that the listing broker seller will make to another broker, agent, or other representative. Such disclosure must be in writing, provided in advance of any payment, and specify the amount or rate of such payment. So long story short, compensation survives, is what it means. It just
Yeah.
can't be done on the MLS. Okay, and the MLS
Yeah.
cannot
It can
help.
be done in the concessions in the form it can.
No,
right?
it
But
literally
not on
says
the
you
MLS
can't put
itself.
it in. You can't put it in the concessions field. Right?
Oh, really? Okay.
It says that like no any other MLS field. Let's see what's.
Well, is the form? I mean, if it's a state form, is it an MLS field?
Oh wait, but let's. So here we go. Practice changes, paragraph 58, which is what we just talked about, right? Shall not A, prevent offers of compensation to buyer brokers or other buyer representatives off of the MLS, which is super interesting. B, sellers from offering buyer concessions on a realtor MLS for buyer closing costs, so long as such concessions are not limited to or conditioned on the retention of or payment to a cooperating broker. Meaning, you could have a concession field. The seller could say, hey, if you buy my house, I will pay your closing costs. Hey, if you buy my house, I'm going to pay for home insurance, right? Hey, if you buy my house, I'm going to include my Corvette, to use the example that you can do that, but you can't say, I will include my Corvette, but only if, you know what I mean? Like, you just can't talk about buyer compensation in the concessions field. This is how I'm reading this, right?
Yeah,
You can
no,
talk about,
but I mean, I think, okay.
that's what it feels
right.
like. That's what it sounds like to me. All right. And then we get this, which is kind of interesting. Okay. Which is, hey, so we have all this, but if the Department of Justice or FTC brings an action against you, then you have to comply with those, right? But even if you do, then like that's going to override this. Like, okay, requires any state attorney general, final judgment, adopt any practice considered that are inconsistent with the practice changes here. The NAR may comply with terms of such judgment unless the judgment is reverse vacated, blah, blah, blah. In such circumstances, you'll continue to be obligated to observe practice changes. So I think the plain English, that way I'm understanding that is this. This settlement agreement says you're going to do all these things, right? Okay. And the settlement is good for 7 years. If during that time the Department of Justice comes in and sues you, or the FTC or a state attorney general comes in and says, we're suing you, I know you have the settlement, we don't like your business practices, we're going to force you to do something different. What this is saying is you have to comply with those judgments, right? Without it affecting the settlement. And if that whatever thing is overturned, then you go back to complying with this. So this settlement forms like a baseline. I found it interesting that they're just leaving it wide open that, hey, the Department of Justice come in and sue your ass and still require something different than here.
I think what they're doing there is that they have, it's just like software or anything else. When you put it out to the masses,
Yep.
You're going to see what happens, and there might be somebody to find some major gaping loophole that they're going to have to plug up at some point, right? Yeah. So I think, and then I mean, what I'm interested in. Remember when they were talking about the Sitzer Burnett thing, where in Missouri it was state law that you had to like offer compensation or something that they didn't bring up in the trial?
No,
aren't there states where?
Yeah, there was
something like that, though.
Yeah, you're not required to.
You're allowed to.
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe it doesn't move that. Yeah.
So, and then there's some appendix. Again, I didn't have time to get through all of this. So let's stop sharing here, unless we need to bring it back and react, and we could maybe answer some questions that are in the chat.
Yeah. Okay.
So
I'll
high level
read here.
reaction.
I mean, again, I think it's, as far as the monetary, I think is a huge win. Right? And I think this is
question.
what I was kind of thinking, where, they're not going to get the $6 billion or the whatever, the $5 billion. They got what they could get. They gave them time to pay it, so it's not going to be some asset sale or whatever. NAR obviously didn't want to go into Chapter 11 because they lose control, which is a point that you've made. I think huge win. Is it a loss for? Is it a loss for CoStar, Zillow, whatever? Zillow's tank is. I think anybody that's depending on buyer leads and the way this thing is structured now, where you got to get written things for a showing, referral networks, anything like that, I think is, yeah. I mean, I don't have any doubt these people will figure it out. But right now, I mean, if this is for July, I mean, that's going to be a lot of tap dancing to do between now and then.
Yeah.
Is it who's the winners here? I think consumers, in a sense, are winners. I think again, NAR kept compensation. I mean, compensation is still alive. It may not be on the MLS, but it's not like they've taken it completely off the table. I think you were really worried about this latest thing from that Virginia court about forcing everything to go into some sort of a, a la carte menu. That doesn't seem like that's the case here. I think the industry can survive this.
Dude, it's not a matter of surviving.
I mean,
this is literally everything the industry could want.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, I think it would. I mean, I think it was a big ask to keep compensation in the MLS, but they weren't going to get that. You're right.
So there's some real unintended consequences here. But all right. So you know what? Before we react further, let's actually answer some of these questions. All right. So I have.
All right.
And by the way, if you didn't want your name read out, maybe say you're asking this question anonymously. But I'm assuming that since you guys probably put it into live chat at YouTube, that you didn't care. So Sean Simpson asks, are the $2 billion plus still exposed, or are these releases just formality? No, there's no more exposure. That's it. Unless I'm misreading something, this $418 million covers just about everybody. I just can't see who it doesn't cover, right? I have no idea what's up with Home Services. Somebody else is going to have to answer that. Maybe ask Home Services. Did Remax anywhere in KW make a mistake? I don't know. I mean, they got a huge advantage for a good long time, right? But it feels like now they might have paid something that they maybe didn't need to pay. Who knows? On the other hand, the $418 million could be because those lawyers already got whatever they got right out of those three guys. So
I mean, it's 627. It's over $500 million, right? I mean,
all right. Is this going to be a bloodbath in MLS acquisition? I don't think so. I mean, after this, there's absolutely no reason why, if you're a 200-person MLS in the middle of Kentucky, you'd worry about anything, right? You're covered. Like there's no liability. You're covered. So actually, this probably hurts the cause of the people who want to see MLS consolidation. Honestly, we're still gonna have 535 MLSs. Yeah.
Well, I think that was one of the bullet points that larger MLSs were making, and that bullet point is less,
no longer
less
valid.
than now. Yeah,
correct. All right, and then Ryan Bokros, does accepting the settlement signal that perhaps the plaintiffs may not have had a ton of confidence what would happen if the suit was appealed? Who knows? I don't know, Ryan. I mean, that's a question for.
I don't think so. I mean, they got their money. They got I think as much as they could extract from this without it being a huge rigmarole, right?
Yeah. Okay. Russell Smith, how much money do we think we could raise by having $100 per throw dunk tank with catch mark? I mean, you could suggest it. I have no idea. And then for the steak dinner bet, NAR bankruptcy in 2024, Rob, I said yes. You said no. Clearly, I'll be buying you some steak dinners. On that one, because it never occurred to me that the lawyers would be so damn cheap. Like, god damn, guys, it's like you guys don't like money. All right. Tigo Venture asks, is this a win or a loss for RZ and CoStar? So Realtor.com, Zillow, and CoStar. I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, what do you think?
I mean, I think it's a disruption to any portal that has some sort of selling leads to buyers, agents, right? There's just a lot of more friction that is going to be involved. It appears. Again, we have to go through this and everybody's got to sort it out. But, I don't think the one-click showing thing, if you've got to get a compensation agreement for unrepresented buyers is going to work out, right? I mean, those guys are smart though. They'll probably figure out what they're going to do. But I would say that is a problem, right? I don't, know if they think Zillow thinks that's an antitrust thing. We'll have to find out. But who else for CoStar? You're listing your lead, right? I mean, yeah, I think it's probably more, if anything that causes pain for their competitors is probably a plus side for them. If you look at the market right now, and I'll just look at my little sheet here. I mean, CoStar is up 551. Zillow's down 883. I mean, dollar wise. So CoStar is up 6%. CoStar is up 6.27%. Zillow's down 16%. Compass is down 11%. Anywhere is down 16%. So I mean, everybody's red except for CoStar. So I guess in the case of Wall Street, it looks like it's a win for CoStar, whether that has to do with anything or not.
Correct.
right? I mean, it's the market for Christ's
Right.
sake. So who knows?
So I guess I don't think it's a
I mean,
win
we've
or
always been saying NAR should settle, right?
right.
This is
Right.
this is it. I think you were just like didn't think it would happen. Thought that
No,
bankruptcy was the turn.
I
I
thought it
think
would be very difficult because I thought the plaintiffs' attorneys would want money, and I guess the answer is they were fine with getting a few bucks, right? I mean, 418 million, really, right? This
that's what
was
they
a
could get. I mean, they're not going to go to a fight. I mean, we talked about this before. They're not going to go to some sort of. I mean, we're talking sell their real estate. What do you think like a commercial building is worth nowadays? It
more,
ain't what it was like 10 years ago.
dude. NAR had $1 billion on its balance sheet. You include the state and local association, we're probably looking at 20 billion. I'm just saying you could have gotten more than 400 million. But again, I'm not the plaintiffs' lawyers. They negotiated it. They this is what
I
they're
think you
happy
could.
with. Let me put it this way: the home
I agree
seller.
with you. If it was a long siege, you could have got more. But I mean, if they want to get
Dude,
something out of here
they just gave
and let's
NAR
get all
4
authorized,
years.
but
They gave NAR 4 years, right? They could have gotten 10 billion over 4 years, but they didn't.
yeah, I
Again, it
think
doesn't
that's
matter.
easy to say.
Here's the thing.
I
So
think that's easy to
from
say.
a seller standpoint, right? So this now means every home seller since 2019, right? You're gonna get about 22 cents, maybe. Like, so the whole claim is you overpaid by $20,000. Here's a coupon for 22 cents. Like, right?
Well, okay, but looking at this, I mean, the way though, like, I mean, there was a article on CNN, and it says the days of 6% are now over.
Right. No,
Right.
so that's the
This is
second
going
part
to
of
be
this.
a psychological warfare here. That's going to be where every realtor now has to contend with, and like they're promoting this as like saving housing.
Mhm.
Right. I mean, you got to wonder is this going to be on Biden's next stump speech? Like, well, we went after real estate and we've blown up their commissions thanks to my administration or whoever else. I mean, you can kind of see that coming, but I don't know if it's as much. I don't think the mainstream media or anybody really understands on the non-real estate side that this is a big win. I think. I mean, I think we both agree.
Yeah. It is a big win. Like I said, I need to read through things more, and I'm sure we're going to get a little bit more insight over the next, couple days. Like my big takeaways right now are that I owe you a steak dinner. It's a big win for NAR. It's a big win for locals and MLSs. I think in a way it's a big loss for agents. Right. I really do, because now one of the things I've been really stressing is if compensation is completely like gone, right? And buyer agents have to convince their own buyers to pay them. It was actually going to eliminate a whole lot of people who shouldn't be in business. Right. Like you're not good, you're not ethical, you're not competent, you don't have enough experience, like like there's no way you should be making 3% on some what you know what I mean? Like, and I thought that was actually going to help the better agents who are competent, be able to take more market share. I'm not sure if that's going to happen entirely, because what I got to really think through is the fact that under the settlement, they're clearly saying you can make offers of compensation. You just can't do it on the MLS. You know what I mean? So in this weird way, okay, so now we're going to set up some other thing where offers of compensation are made, right? Like compensation portal, I don't know, like, or is it each broker, right? Because again, in the settlement language, it seems to say a broker can list compensation offers on their own listings on their own website. I'm like, okay, so
well, but the positive way of looking at it, Rob, is that now agents have to have conversations. They just can't point. We'll see what it says there, and see what it says there, or see what it says there. They have to have these conversations now with their clients.
Sure.
Where I don't think before they really had to. Really, they could just say, "Well, he's getting that. I should get this," and there was this kind of cloak of whatever. I think,
but
a positive way of looking at that.
Yeah, but it still is going to keep around all the procuring cost stuff, right? It's still going to produce all of that. It's just that everything's going to move off the MLS. Do you see what I'm saying? So I don't know what the implication of that is long term. The bigger takeaway, though, is, like I said, again, when we began this thing, what we said is there's no way that they actually entered the settlement agreement without talking it over with the Department of Justice. If the DOJ is okay
You
with
got to
this,
believe that.
right? You got to believe that, right? If the DOJ is okay with this, then I'm like looking at their objection in NOSA, going, "What were you guys objecting to exactly?" Right? Because they made that objection, they said, "Hey,
Well, it's
you could request it in the offer." That made sense to me because okay, then there's no steering, right? Like, but now you're saying you can offer compensation, you just can't be on the MLS. Okay, so let's just theoretically, hypothetically throw this out. I'm a buyer agent. I have to say, here, sign my buyer agent agreement, and the only compensation is whatever the seller pays me. Okay, and
Mhm.
if any shortfall, you pay me. Cool. There's no compensation field in the MLS. You can't find the concessions. I find a home. You want to go toward this home? Cool. Let me go look up that broker's website real quick. Oh, 3% offered. We should go see that house. On the broker's website, oh, 1% offered. You know what? That house probably isn't going to work for you. Like,
Well, that's
steering
only
still
if all those
survives.
brokers. No, if the brokers decide to go down that path and put
If they
those
do, correct.
offers on their website,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
And that would be yeah.
But,
So I
you
don't
know,
know if
what I mean
that's
is-
a. There's,
What I mean
there's
is
a lot of friction there.
steering
Still.
still survives under that scenario, is what I'm getting at, right? Like,
Well, yeah. I mean, you can no matter what happens, you could come up with a scenario where there could
No.
be a steering thing.
no, if it
surviving.
was something you have to put into the offer, there's no steering, right?
Right.
And
Well,
they
you know
didn't
what it
do
does
that.
do if you when you put it that way is that if it almost gives the it's up to the buyer broker to earn his, if he wants that commission, he's going to have to kind of negotiate that with the seller and the seller's agents, right?
But if the seller's saying,
it's
I'm
not
offering this compensation, right? Then the buyer agent could say, okay, we're going to go look at this house. We're not going to look at that house. I know I'm going to fuck around with this one because it's not offering enough compensation. That's what I'm getting at.
yeah.
It's just
I mean,
that
but
everything's going to
that's
happen.
there
off
could be a
MLS.
strategy where sellers, it behooves them not to offer anything and negotiate deal by deal, right? Why would you want to put a blanket offer of something when
Sure.
you could probably negotiate a deal
Since
by
we
deal?
have to wrap, let's make sure we talk about that on our next episode. Once we've had a chance to go through all this, we do have to wrap. Everybody, thanks for watching live. We do apologize for starting a little bit late, so this ended up being a bit of a short show. But we'll see if we could do another one of these in the future once we know a little bit more.
Don't forget to like and subscribe already if you're not on the YouTube channel. So and spread the word. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone, and we will see you next time.